Hello and a warm welcome to another edition of Wellness with Will. My name is William, last name Lehong, so good to have you on. Our guest today is Racy Hlahla, who is a passionate mental health activist. And the context of our conversation today centers around you as a man living in 2024 with societal pressures. How do you handle those? Racy, a warm welcome to Wellness with Will. Good to have you here. How are you doing?
Hey, well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Well, I'm great. I'm feeling good.
Racy, you are very passionate about mental health, especially when it comes to men. Let's unpack that very quickly. What are the pressures that men face where they are unable or they are incapacitated to deal with those issues from a mental capacity?
Yeah, well, I think mental health is something that most men we battle with. And the first place is naturally, men, we are providers.
Right.
And when you battle with providing, especially for yourself or your family, and that's where the biggest challenge comes from. And that's what most men start battling with. And they end up having to go through different places to get support.
Right. And obviously we then read and we see all this data that exists at the moment that the suicidal rate and the numbers are staggering, particularly for men around the world, not just in the context of South Africa or in the continent of Africa, but across the globe. And with men, the suicidal rates and it's usually very violent as well, which means there is no emotional intelligence that the man is equipped with to really deal with societal pressures, like you've just mentioned, being the provider, being the protector, being the head of the household. When those are taken away from you, you feel, I want to use the term emasculated, that you're no longer man enough because you can't put bread on the table.
Yeah, and it's very sad that unfortunately it leads to that, whereby the way out is one taking his life.
Sure.
And it's quite sad. I mean, you look at the statistics and also where about it happens and also what it leaves behind. I mean, the trail or that is left behind after a man has taken his own life, and also those that are around him as well, the pain that is left behind. So I think it just starts with men being comfortable to open up and just talk about the concerns that they might be having, or the challenges that we are having as men, and making it okay to just come out and speak, right. So that we can just end the scourge that our country and the world, to be precise, we are experiencing as men. And it starts with conversations like these,
sure,
where we can just talk as men about issues of manhood, issues that we encounter as men, challenges that we encounter. And when you feel that your back is against the wall, what do you do as a man? How do you reach out? And how to even start a conversation? You know those conversations where one starts talking and then we realize all of us that we had the same problem,
yes,
and finally we leave that conversation feeling assured that actually it's not just me. It's actually normal, and we need more of such conversations.
I appreciate that, Racy. And obviously, you do a lot of work as well as a mental health activist within your own community. Talk to me firstly about your involvement with the What About the Boys campaign, and then we can then move on to some of the work that you're doing through your church.
All right, so What About the Boys campaign really got me excited because they are talking about starting from the beginning, the source of the issue, because a man was once a boy,
yes,
and in Zulu they say "Gojwa lisesemanzi," so dealing with a boy from a very young age and having those conversations on how to deal with the wrong approaches that we're seeing. I mean, we grow up with the uncles that are teaching us things that are not necessarily true, all these myths, and
Like men don't cry.
you know,
Tough enough.
yep, you can't show emotions.
Right.
So such narratives is what About the Boys is dealing with, and starting the conversations. And I mean, being a father to a 9-year-old has also made me very interested in it. On when the time comes, I can have those conversations with my son, so that I too can start working on my boy, who will become a man one day, and he can become a better man. And that's how I ended up being introduced with What About the Boys, and it was first introduced at work. It was a campaign which is a collaboration between Markham, which I work for, and Prime Stars, and I also went and watched the movie as well. If you haven't watched the movie, please make time to go watch it. But it really helped me to start with those conversations, and it has helped me personally to relate difficult conversation with my son. And I would definitely advocate for it, for more men to really check it out and support this campaign. There is currently a campaign, 1.350 million, that we are chasing as a way to raise awareness, to fight the scourge of gender-based violence in our homes, in our community, in the societies that we find ourselves in. And that's basically the first part around What About the Boys.
Right. And this target that you're chasing, how are you actually doing it? Is this through the sale of items, through the stores nationally? Talk to me a little bit about the call to action.
Okay, good question. So how one can partake in this? It's easy. All you do is buy the merch. So there is merchandise that you can buy either in a Markham store, or it can be online through the Bash platform, where a contribution is made towards this amazing campaign of What About the Boys. So by just buying yourself either a t-shirt or a sweater, you are actively supporting this amazing campaign. So make your mark and support this campaign.
I'm very glad that you mentioned the fact that you have a son. I've got a 1-year-old as well, but I started working with Prime Stars in the What About the Boys campaign at its inception, right? So some 4 or 5 years ago. This was before I had a son, but I'm getting a lot of practice because I work a lot with these young boys who are in high school and at an impressionable age, right? These are grades 8 all the way through to 12. And a lot of the feedback that we get, Racy, from these young men is firstly the misconception of what it means to be a man. Because even in the movie, those touch points are carried through thematically, right? So you see the young boy who has a young girlfriend, but deals with her inappropriately. You have the other young boy who has an abusive father, who then, because of the abuse that he witnesses firsthand at home from his father to a mother, he then extends that to the people around him, right? And not being able to manage his anger or his emotion because he hasn't been taught the way of, how to handle yourself when you are dealing with people. And then you have several other supporting acts within these character Bibles that really attach themselves to these two, that then exacerbate the abuse, as it were. And this is in a high school context. So I'm glad that you and I can sit here as fathers and understand the importance of not only the conversation, but how we're going to actively ensure that not only our sons, but every single boy who hears and sees us through this message will be able to then go back to their own community. Because a lot of the times, Racy, we find that we will talk to young boys in a very controlled environment, but they still go back to those very same environments that have instilled the toxic masculinity. And obviously we have to almost train or help everyone unlearn those traits so that everybody can now develop a new mindset, right? How do you propose we do that? I mean, from your work through the church, I imagine you've got access to young men as well. and there's a congregation, there are young people as well who will listen?
It starts, thank you, Will, and it starts with dialogues.
Right.
And having a platform where a man would feel free to be vulnerable,
Sure.
to talk about real issues. It also opens up a platform where a boy child can have an opportunity to voice out on the concerns that they are facing growing up.
Right.
And there is initiatives like we've just had our men's camp,
Okay.
where it was a combination of married, those that are not yet married, and conversations around how do you deal with the challenges of running a family, challenges of not having enough income, challenges of raising kids, how to become a godly man.
Right.
Such conversations has really helped in terms of just leveling the ground, in terms of understanding that it's actually not a special problem.
Right.
It's a world problem that we have, and we need to deal with it. And once people start understanding that it's okay to understand that the issues that we face as men, it's issues that are here, but how to overcome them. It's about one, opening up and raising their concerns or struggles with those that have good intentions in heart. Because some of these things that we learned or we picked up in the streets, it's not because of good intentions.
Right.
Yeah, so the church environment for me has helped me to pick up some of the good habits so that I can too, because it's a journey.
Yeah.
I too want to, one day when I retire out of this world,
Right.
that I can bow out being a good man, a godly man. And that is why I'm also active in the church to ensure that I also deposit towards another young man, another man, another father, so that together we can become a community of men that are doing good.
Listen, Racy, we appreciate you and your work. Let's talk within that spiritual context. What sort of feedback are you getting or did you receive from that men's camp? What were these young men telling you? What sort of stories were they relaying?
So one of the things that was really, really personal for me was even after the interactions, I had one or two guys that would come to me and say, I really enjoyed how you spoke so vulnerably around one of the incidences that I had, which required me having to end up seeking counseling for me to be able to deal with it. And this young man appreciated the fact that it's okay to seek out help.
Sure.
So for me, that was just validation that it's required. It's a need to have more platforms where as men we can talk about our issues without any stigma. And you can be vulnerable, because vulnerability, believe it or not, Will, it's not something that I had it right from the beginning.
Yes.
Something that I also battled with, because I had this narrative that a man is someone that must save the day.
Sure.
So whenever there's
Cape to save everybody.
I'm telling you, whenever my wife would come to me with problems, I'm already thinking solution. Until one time she said to me, I don't need you to save me every time with every concern that I have. Things like that. Having those type of conversation without really thinking that your manhood is being compromised. We need more of that.
I love that. And that's exactly the problem that we're facing in real time, right? The emasculation of the man who's not able to provide. I know in instances where they are not married, sometimes you don't even get access to your children because you're not putting any support financially towards those children. So the mom feels aggrieved enough to deny you access to your children. So it even lends itself in those dynamics, right?
Yep.
Let's then talk about, Racy, your own personal anecdotes, right? What is it that you had to overcome to now sit here as a mental health activist to talk to other men, to young boys, based on your own personal experience?
So for me, it started it was back in 2016. And I realized that I had just become a father.
Right.
And which was new territory for me.
Okay.
I had just gotten married. I have a wife now.
Right.
New territory for me, and also at work, I felt that I had hit a ceiling.
Okay.
So the best part for me was that I got myself a life coach.
Okay.
So the moral of the story is not just about the life coach, but getting support around you.
Right.
Have people that you are accountable to.
Sure.
People that are rooting for you, people that are supporting you. And when you do not have the capacity, you have somebody that is there to support you. Mentorship programs, so that is what has helped me in terms of having the right people around me. I've got a spiritual father that I'm accountable to.
Right.
So whenever I have battles at home, personally, I still have someone, a man that I can speak to that can say to me, oh, by the way, it's okay. It's actually not a biggie.
Yeah.
I've been there myself,
Sure.
But that time I'm thinking the world is ending, So having right people around you is the best thing that one can do. Hence, campaigns like What About the Boys? It opens up that opportunity because there are mentors that are there, people that have the best interest of a boy child or a man to succeed. So reach out, and I know there are other agencies that people can reach out to, or men
Sure.
can reach out to, that can really support a man. And it's okay when you feel that you're drowning to reach out and get supported.
I appreciate that. Let's then segue into normalizing therapy. You spoke about you went for counseling at some point during your journey. How easy is it to get men, that is you watching right now, to understand the importance of going to therapy, seeing a counselor, seeing a psychologist, seeing a psychiatrist, depending on the severity of the mental health challenges that you are facing? Obviously, each case is unique. Talk to me about how that happened for you and how you are then encouraging other men to go or seek the same route.
So just to give you context.
Right.
So I was attacked at work.
Okay.
And that was one of the toughest things that I went through.
Was this like a physical attack?
A physical attack, blood spilled.
Whoa.
Yeah, and
Sure.
and it came at a time whereby I had just about to be promoted to my next role.
Right.
And having to deal with that, because as a man, you don't want to be seen as weak.
Sure.
And to be beaten up by another man to a point of shedding blood was one of the toughest things that I had to deal with. And as a protector, how do I then protect my family if I failed to protect myself?
Right.
As my son, who looks up to me, looks at me and hears that, oh, by the way, your dad was beaten up. So having to work around that, I felt so overwhelmed by that. And I felt that I can't, in my natural strength, I can't handle this.
Right.
Because if I retaliate, I'll end up in jail. It's not helping anyone.
Sure.
So hence through the support from work, because there is helpline at work that reached out to, and then I got assigned somebody that I spoke to,
right,
that helped me on dealing with this. And the fact that I am able to openly speak about it today, it's through the help that I got through the psychologist. And I was able to put that behind me. And to this day, I value speaking to behavioral experts, because that's what they are.
Yeah.
And because then I did not know how to move around this, and they helped me to do that. So I'll definitely encourage that when you feel that this is beyond you,
sure,
reach out. And yeah, I'm tempted to say don't be stupid, because it would have added to that if I would have retaliated,
Right.
because I would have lost even more. And remembering that being at work, I also have the responsibility towards how I carry myself as a leader.
Right.
So there was a lot of challenge also in terms of how do I juggle this from a professional point of view and also from a personal point of view. And that's where help comes in. And I'm glad I reached out.
Thanks for opening up. How important is that, Racy, having wellness departments within the corporate environment in South Africa? Because as you are relaying that story, this happened in a work environment. How important is that?
It's very important, Will, because if it hasn't happened to you, you wouldn't really see the value of it.
Right.
But the fact that companies need to make it easily available to a point that I can get help without people knowing about it.
Right.
You know, that confidentiality
Yes.
also played a significant role, because when you're vulnerable, you also want it to be a private thing.
Yes.
Up until such a time whereby you are comfortable to openly speak about it.
Right.
So it's important for companies to make it normal to talk about the wellness programs that they have, so that even if I might not be the one that needs it, but if I can see signs of someone that needs it, then I can recommend, then I can refer, so that I can also save a brother or a sister out there who might be drowning at that particular time.
And in wrapping up our conversation, Racy, I mean, these young men that we are trying to raise a nation of, we want them to be good. What are the pearls of wisdom that you'd like to impart on them when you are engaging with them? And you can take this opportunity right now to really speak to that young boy who's listening, who's watching.
Yeah, thank you, Will. And I want to say it's okay. It's okay to allow yourself to go through the challenges that you're going through. And there is help. I was there, and there's a whole lot of us that go through challenges. And you don't have to suffer in silence. Reach out. There is a whole lot of us out there that wants to support you. There are programs out there that are available to you. And you'll come out and end the generational curse in some instances with you by reaching out to people like What About the Boys? Reach out and make sure that you become a better man. Violence is never a solution, and separating yourself, distancing yourself from others is also not a solution. Reach out to those that have the best interest at heart. And yeah, let's mold a generation of good men. And one day we can look back and be happy that we had this kind of dialogues.
I love that. Racy Hlahla, obviously just giving you pearls of wisdom as a young man, as a young boy who's watching this message, but also very importantly, I'm talking to you as well as a man, as an adult, as a parent, as a caregiver who is looking after the boy child, to really understand how easy it is to have those conversations and how easy it is to really make your boy child be vulnerable and equip them with emotional intelligence. That's our edition for today for Wellness with Will. Thank you so much, Racy. Where can we catch you? Quickly before we let you go, where can we catch you? At church?
So I'm part of Builders Church.
Right.
On a personal level, you can also check me out on the socials, racyh.hlahla, racy.hlahla. But other than that, you can catch me in the streets.
Racy Hlahla here on Wellness with Will. Thank you so much for watching.